My name's Jessica Pearson.
I'm Tara Shannon.
I'm Sam Stone.
I'm Mikayla Menzies.
And we are here on the Syn Wagon podcast. Late nights.
We don't need a theme song. We have you.
Yeah.
This is the live version every time.
Yeah.
The live
And
version, I love it.
Just improv every time.
It's just an improv little thing. Oh, yeah. Perfect. We're still going on all accounts. No, I don't want to use something else. I picked a thing for a reason. Stop trying to switch. Anyways, hello, ladies. I'm so happy to have you all here at Tara's house. Not mine. I'm not hosting, but I'm hosting
You're
Tara's.
hosting the couch.
I'm hosting the couch. We're going to start off with a little what happened to the music industry on this day.
Yes.
Yeah, I love these.
Ooh.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I know we started something new,
like
Mikayla.
that. We started
every
something
episode
called
with it.
structure.
Oh yeah. So
We started
also,
planning.
Mikayla Menzies, as you may have noticed so far,
Yes.
when she's in town, she is a part of our crew.
Yes.
Well, she's a part of our crew, whether she's in town or not.
Yeah,
but
I
she's
meant
in
the podcast crew.
She's
Yeah,
our West
exactly.
Coast division. We're the East Coast division.
It takes 3 people to run the mid-East Coast. It takes 1 person to run the West Coast.
I took over the island. I got it covered, guys.
Exactly.
Hell yes. So I'm very excited to have you here for today's subject. But I'm going to start with our facts. So in 1969, on this very day, the Beatles shot the photo for their very famous, like the Abbey Road album cover, which is them walking across that street.
Yeah.
And so, it's, I just found that super interesting that they had that actually marked.
That's so cool because I just was reading, this makes sense that it would have come up in my feed, the conversation, because I was reading how annoying it is for the locals because tourists travel there.
I saw
and
that
they
too.
try to take their own photos, but regardless
that.
of the fact that it is a functioning street and
Yeah.
cars are trying to get somewhere.
Yeah, I saw the same thing. I think we followed the same artist who was just there and did a post
Oh,
about
is that it? Okay, yeah.
And they were explaining how they were there actually in the studio doing some stuff.
Right.
And that
is
And their
amazing.
mom was there with them, and they went to do the Abbey Road thing.
Yeah.
And her post was explaining how there's like security guards posted
Yeah.
there because it's a functioning working street that people need to
Yeah.
drive by, but. Obviously, thousands of people go there to just like
Have
do
their
the walk and
moments.
take the pictures, so they
Yeah.
have to like somewhat regulate it because cars are like
Yes.
honking, like I need to get through.
It shows the power of artwork.
The power
Yeah.
of
Photography.
art. That still to the that was 1969. We are 2023, and still to this day, people are going there specifically to walk.
I mean, it
across
is
that
the
same crosswalk.
Beatles, which
It
is
is
also a
Beatles.
huge
Oh, yeah.
factor.
Yeah. Like, no one's trying to find the field I took a photo in, but
Yet.
the mystical field where the east wind goes. But like just the power of artwork and the power of people, how powerful your fans and audience can be, and how like these people are literally traveling across the world to this space just to be in that same place.
Yeah.
You know,
And even if
Yeah.
you're not a fan necessarily, like you're not a
Yeah.
super fan of the Beatles, if you see anyone else like post a picture on their socials of them there walking,
you know.
and like they don't have to say anything. Everyone's like, "Oh yeah, they're."
Yeah, it's iconic.
It's just
Exactly.
I like 9 out of 10 people I would argue would be able to recognize that and know.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
100%. And so that kind of leads into our topic of today is artwork and just how important and how crazy it can be, right? And how I'm trying to think of not the word legendary, but how
Like purposeful?
like
Yeah.
just how impactful
Impactful.
your artwork can be for your music, right? Like there's so many different types of art that goes into creating an album, creating a single, an EP, but the fact that something like that, like decades later, still has an impact on people. Like you said, they can be fans or not even fans, but they still will recognize that.
Yeah.
You know, like how impactful and how important it is to have artwork that conveys you, your branding, your artistry, but is also iconic in a way,
Yeah.
you know? And I think artwork too has changed so much since then. So the standard for artwork, the standard for like a lot of it was a lot of photos of people, right? It was usually the photo of the artist, depending on what genre you were in. To now, people are releasing singles with nothing on it, a photo that like an old school photo, a new one, art. Like there's so many different ways you can go now.
Or like cartoons or
Exactly.
The world of digital has opened up so many more possibilities.
So many.
Whereas in those days, you were just going to print all the time. There was nothing else other than print. So now with digital and stuff, you have lots more leeway and more, and you can change your artwork too with your digital downloads. When you upload to DSPs and stuff, you can at any time you can take it down and put more artwork on it.
Yeah, and you do see some people have multiple versions of the artwork for the same project.
Yeah.
And it's very much like the judging a book by the cover thing, and I feel as though it's really a first impression point for a lot of people. So it's like sometimes that's the first thing somebody sees or knows of you as an artist. So it's pretty critical, I would argue.
Oh yeah.
It
is.
it's not secondary. Like it needs to be. I mean, well, you're a photographer, so I mean, that's a medium that you use regularly.
Yeah. I feel like that's the biggest thing for artwork is the photo. Like if an artist, like especially when I'm designing covers for other artists, like if the photo is like really great and sends the message, it makes my job easier.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like it really like the photo really tells the story. So like if you take it yourself or if you're like working with the photographer, like make sure that they really know your vision, because that like especially in like have them hear the song.
And also make sure like you as an artist know your vision.
Yeah.
Because you see that a lot of times too, where an artist hires a photographer because that's what they're supposed to be doing. That's the next step. And they need photos. And the photographer obviously may have like their own aesthetic and style that you're drawn to, and you've seen their other work and that's why you chose them or you've worked with them before. But for each project or each photo shoot, there likely are different goals of what's that photo shoot for. Is it for album artwork? Is it just for website stuff? Is it just for your socials? And if it is for artwork and for music specifically or any of these things, you really need to provide a vision and direction and really take time to talk about that with your photographer. Because if not, they're just like gonna go off what they think, and then when you get your photos, you may be disappointed or be like, these are nice, but they don't accomplish the goal. But that's not on them if you didn't take the time. So like you have to be really clear on that as an artist of what you're looking for.
And like vision boards are really great for that. Like Pinterest boards are really great for that. And just kind of like finding a common thread between you and the photographer.
Yeah.
Or just do it yourself.
Or just DIY, which is also one of the things I want to talk about too. Like I find that, again, when you compare like older albums and artwork for that to the newer artwork, there's so many different changes. So and like we kind of talked about in our pre-production episode, we talked about like having the same language. So having reference tracks, this would be like reference photos, which is what your vision board is going to be good for, right? Is to be able to say, okay, this is the warmth I'm looking for out of this, because the warmth to you could be completely different to the warmth to me, right? So having examples and really being able to talk to, if you're working with a photographer, that kind of stuff. But so Tara, you released albums beforehand. What was the experience like for you looking for artwork in that space?
Well, it's been a process, because when I was a younger artist, I really had no sense of who I was as a person.
Which a lot of us
are. And so, I had no sense of what I should be doing or anything. I just knew I needed photos. And I got stuck with this German photographer who kept wanting me to get naked. Do you remember that? So I had just had
with
my
your newborn baby.
Yeah, I just had my third baby, and he was insistent that it would be the most artistic thing. Is that you really should, take these beautiful naked photos. It'd be beautiful for your album. And I'd be like, dude, no. I was like 22, 23 maybe. I can't remember.
And some artists like Miley Cyrus, you'd be like, sure, why not? Yeah,
but my music then was like it was like contemporary Christian music,
Yeah.
inspirational. I mean, I didn't know anything about branding yet, but I knew that wasn't right.
You knew that That would really portray what your album was about.
That was off-brand.
And also just does not sound safe.
No, it was, and I mean, my gosh, I mean, I escaped. I got out of there. Okay, so many other young female artists do not. So that's a whole other podcast. But so I just knew I would have the sort of a vague idea of what I wanted, but I certainly didn't have any sense of, anything. Now, though, decades later, I have a much clearer idea of the look and the feel. And I think what people, with a lot of the artists we coach, you have to stay in the feeling of it. It's not what you think. So like everything is communicating an emotion, and that's what your brand is. So your brand is it's the feeling of the experience of you. And that's everything. That's your songs, that's your show, that's your merch, that's your photography. So you want to use that moment as a precursor to kind of give a taste of what the listener is in for, perhaps. So it's a combination of that and the expression of you. Yes. So taking the time to line that up is really important. It shouldn't be like a secondary thought. And what gets in the way sometimes is budget. So, photographers can be, like $200 all the way up to thousands. So depending on what you're looking for and their skill and stuff. So really thinking it through and a really good thing to have is people to check in with.
Yes.
We all need those people that we trust that are going to give us that objective feedback. They're not worried about hurting your feelings. They'll just give you that clean, be like, it feels like this is not quite where this record is, And then, for me I think we all deal with this as women, photo shoots are awful.
Yep.
You have to, I've had really bad experiences in photo shoots, and then I've had really good ones. Yeah. And I think it comes down to, first off, looking at the different photographers you're looking into, asking people who've worked with them how they felt.
Yeah.
And getting someone who's going to make you feel comfortable. Because again, no matter what, we're going to judge ourselves.
We are. And that's the thing, is the whole body image thing. And again, I'm going to be 50 this year, and this is still a thing. In the sense that, it doesn't control me, but I am aware of my own relationship with how I feel about my body. So when you're in a photo shoot, you can't run from it. It's like, it's there, and it's so sad because, it robs us of these moments of really loving the art. And I think, I cannot name one female artist that I work with that does not feel the same way.
Yeah, no matter what, no matter age, no matter
doesn't
body
matter
type,
if you weigh 400 pounds or 100 pounds.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. We are all hypercritical of ourselves. So to your point, finding a comfortable environment so that you are your best self. Yeah. Also, there are some photographers that just know how to photograph women, and some don't. Yep. They know what the flattering angles are and the ones that are not. Yeah. And that's huge.
And they also know how to talk to you and deal with you through the shoot to lift you up and be
make
comfortable,
you feel encouraged
and I personally have been so lucky. I did a photo shoot about 6 months ago, and I, as you ladies know, I was dreading it and avoiding it, and it was a whole thing. And then even in the moment I did it was wonderful. I chose 2 amazing women to work with, and it was so fun. I left that day being why did I stress about this? It was such a fun day. But then as the time went on from when the photo shoot happened to getting the photos back, all that stuff started creeping in of I didn't want to be robbed of the great experience of that day by I would receive the photos and just hate everything. Yeah. So it just, but I was I did a lot of thinking about it and reflecting and meditating and trying to, and when I got the photos, I have to say I was pleasantly surprised with I was expecting way more resistance than I had, or than I did, but it's tough, man.
Well, it is beautiful that you could find a way to get in a space to accept it. Cause like you said, we get in our minds and we judge ourselves, and it takes us away from the art of the photo. Yeah. Right? The capturing, the sense, the emotion you get from it. Cause all we're seeing is, there's a bit of arm there, and a bit of shadow here makes me look like I have this, right? And we're seeing all of that rather than this whole beautiful picture that can portray so many different emotions, which is what the art of photography is about, right? Yeah. So having like of finding a way for you to get in a space where you didn't have to fight your resistance as much as you thought is so beautiful.
Yeah, and just like getting to a place where you're like, I'm gonna own like where I'm at in my life with my body. Like
that's my
I'm gonna own it and just like enjoy it and celebrate it, whether it's like what I think where I want to be right now or not. Like this is what it is, and things. You know, this is my life and where I'm at, and yeah, just owning it and you know, finding a way to like love
really
yourself.
Like because like moments, right? So like seeing yourself in that and just being like, okay, like this is just capturing where I'm at and like this moment. Because there's often a lot of times where like I'll look back on pictures of myself and in the moment I was like, I don't like this. Like, I don't feel my best. And you look back and you're like, I look great. Like, oh my God. Like, why was I stressing out about this? Like, whatever. Or you just do it yourself. That's what I found. The most
Mikayla
comfortable,
is like the queen of.
Yes.
The most comfortable place for me to create art is doing it myself. Like, I
am getting a phone call.
That was like the biggest thing for me was like, learning how to set a timer on a camera was like so great because I could really like do it. And then, you know, there's parts where you set it up, you have to get up to turn it back on and then go down. And like, it's like a workout in itself. But like, I find like I felt way more free to like create it myself
and to just try things
and to just try things that I wouldn't
judgment.
do. Yeah, exactly. That I wouldn't do. Or I would
if
like,
you don't like it, delete.
Yeah. Or I would, seriously. Or like, and like nobody else is going to see it, just me. And like, I have creative control. Or like, I would get my friends to do it. And like, obviously like it's somebody that you're like comfortable with and like, they don't quite know like the things that like a photographer that you hire would know, but like, it makes it more of like a fun creative space.
Oh yeah. And too, like again, you're able to try some things that maybe you would feel uncomfortable doing in front of someone else, even like a close friend. Do you know what I mean? We were talking about smacking each other's butts earlier. Like we're that comfortable with each other, but even still, like it's easy to get in our heads and be like, oh, like, but would this be cool? Would this look good? Like, what if this looks stupid, right? We kind of talk ourselves out of doing things. Yeah. So, and how do you feel like taking photos? Because you were the one that took the photo of Row, like my single artwork. So, like, how do you find working on that side as well? Like being a photographer for other artists?
I really like it. I think like the biggest thing for taking pictures of like other artists, like you were just in your element. So it was easy. Yeah. You know, like you were just like in your space, in your creative space and like just capturing that. And then also just giving a lot of options. Right? Like I think that that's a really big thing. Like even when somebody just gives me an iPhone, like I take 100 pictures. Because I like that for myself, you know, like I like when I can like look through pictures and like be like, oh, like I like this one or like, you know, it feels like, and I think part of it too comes from like, I want to capture as many like angles of a moment. So I don't, and it comes from like, oh, I feel like I'm going to miss this moment and I'm not going to capture it right. So I take like 100 pictures of it. Like we were on the rocks and I was just like, I got it. I got it.
Getting all the angles.
And I just got so excited because I knew that it was in there. And it was just, it wasn't like we planned it. Like I didn't like have you, okay, you're going to stand on this rock and it's going to be like a whole thing. Like you were just doing it.
Also, when you were taking those photos, correct me if I'm wrong, but it wasn't like we went into that, like onto that set per se, or that scene, and it was like, we're going to get the artwork for Row here.
No.
You were just taking photos, and in the moment, you're like, you probably thought to yourself, oh, there's an album cover shot in here, you know, or a single shot in here.
And I don't think I said it at the time, but I was like, I feel like there's like, this is just a moment that I want to capture. Like it didn't even come from like, oh, like we need artwork, which like obviously in the back of my mind, like I knew we needed it, but like, but like, it was like, it just came from such a raw moment. And I think that that's probably like what, like, even like you could maybe like attach that to like the Beatles cover. Like, you know, maybe the photographer was just like, hey, do you guys want to like walk across this street like just now? So I think like it's moments like that where it can really capture like the feeling of a song because you're not like trying so hard. It's like
Mm-hmm.
there's flow in it, you know?
There is flow in that. And again, it's like you kind of said, like when you're in your element, like when you, the artist, feel good and feel like you're being supported by the photographer or yourself and you're feeling good about it, that it makes the job for the photographer even easier because they're just capturing you in your element doing what you do. So they're getting that emotion from you without trying to pull it out, right?
Yeah.
So the more comfortable you can feel in that space, the better the photos are going to turn out anyways, because it's you being comfortable, being you, and that's what you're really trying to portray.
Because the camera picks up everything.
It really
Yeah.
Like, it sees right through you.
Especially
There's
nowadays.
No hiding,
Especially
now.
nowadays. Every
There's
damn
no-
porn.
You know, and the camera, like, you know, and some people, like, the camera just loves them.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter what they're doing, you know, and you're all photogenic like that, you know, and it's really,
I don't
it
know,
makes it
but-
very easy.
See, I'm
Yeah.
still
I
working
know.
on it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's a process, right? It's kind of
Yeah.
like when you start off, like I feel like almost every vocalist, when they first start off and they go in to do their first recording, are like, oh my God, I hate the sound of my own voice.
Yeah.
But like like over this journey of years and years, have come to a point where like I hear my voice in a recording and I'm like, oh, like I'm so happy with how that turned out. I'm so proud of that work. Or if I hear something bad, I'm like, oh, like that's a note I can easily fix. You know, it's not a place of, oh my God, I hate the sound of my voice. I hate listening to it
Right.
now, because I feel like I'm finally singing from me and not from a place of trying to sound like something or trying to make myself be something.
Yeah.
You
It's
know?
the same with photography.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, when you get a set of proofs back and your first reaction isn't, oh God. And you're like, oh, okay, there's some good stuff in here. There's some stuff we
Yeah.
can work with here.
Yeah.
And just try to separate your own self-worth feelings or your own, you know, relationship with your body or whatever it might be from, this is a product that's separate from me.
Yes.
So what is this communicating? Is it in line with the brand? You know, is this the right feeling? What's really popular these days too is not even photography anymore. Like
Yes.
digital artwork and graphic design is very popular now for album covers.
Oh, it's so popular for albums, for singles, and that's exactly what I kind of wanted to get to next is how would you decide from going between a photo, whether that's of you, of nature, like there's so many different photos you can take. It doesn't have to be a self-portrait in a sense. From that to something graphic, something drawn, like whether it's like very graphic-y, very cartoon, whether it's like a painted or a drawing that's been digitalized, like how do you go about choosing which one for your project, whether that be a single EP artwork?
I think it depends on the song. Like it really depends on the song. Like when I like look at your covers, I feel like it makes sense because it's really like storytelling based, right?
Yeah.
Like your photos telling a story, just like your songs telling a story. So it makes
Yes.
sense. And the way you did it too, with all the singles having different like artwork, like makes sense. So I think it just depends on the song and like what message you want to say.
And the aesthetic, and is it
Yeah.
truly a standalone single and it's not really going to be tied to anything else, or I don't know if you want to go into like how you did your
Yeah.
like single releases. In that case, you released a bunch of singles that you knew were eventually going to be part of one album. So
Exactly.
you released those singles with like a curated kind of thing in mind where you knew that like they weren't standalone singles. So
Yeah.
if you want to talk about how you did that.
Yeah, so for my album online, I released I think like 8 of the 10 songs first before the full album came out as singles. And what I did was instead of using the album artwork for all of it, I got one of my really close friends who's an amazing artist, Tina Wallace, to basically create and draw single artwork for each one. So it was all done in the same style, the same fonts. It was all kind of like focused on like one reference to each song that kind of brought it up. So it was kind of like about the theme of the song is what inspired that artwork for it. And then, yeah, we did it so that it all basically told the story of the song, but also told the story social media wise that I was releasing, and then led to the album. So when you see the single artwork in the album, like the album artwork's a photo, and the single artworks are drawn, but they still have a similar vibe in the sense of that folkiness, that Celtic vibe, that country kind of vibe. Like that all
with your brand.
made sense. My branding, right? They all made sense in my branding. They were all kind of these light, like the color scheme that we were using were all in the branding as well. So it all flowed together really nicely. And that was, again, like very curated, right? Like I knew that I wanted to release these songs as singles first. And so the focus was, okay, like what kind of artwork do I want to do for each single? And instead of trying to find a bunch of different photos or taking photos from that same photo shoot, I wanted to do something because Tina was doing all the artwork for posters that I was doing as well. So her art had already been shown so much in my branding that I was like, this would be the perfect way to continue to show it. And I've gotten a lot of compliments from it about that as well. But it was a great way to...
It's beautiful. It's all really
to like share other art, tell story on social media as well through that photos of the story of the song individually, but then also to be able to curate with another artist and kind of bring that fun into it, right? Sometimes it's fun to just bring someone else in on that to collaborate and work together on something and try something new in that way.
Because the new element to think of is your artist profiles on DSPs, so Apple or Spotify.
Yeah.
Your artwork all comes up. So it's almost like you're curating like an Instagram page so that when people land on your, right now, there's an aesthetic you should be managing or trying to manage because when people come across your page, there's a feeling that comes with that and it helps people click on stuff and listen to stuff. So there's that extra element. And I mean, there's an old school thinking, because I've been in this for 30 years now, 30 years more. Like in the olden days, like 30 years ago, it's not like even the olden days. You wanted your face on it because you wanted to have you wanted to be recognized. You wanted to have that connection. I don't see that as being as true anymore because you have to think about albums used to be on shelves, right? So like you walked in and it was on shelves. So there was like the visual element. And so if you had like a really attractive artist, you would want to have their photography there because it draws people in, right? So it was a marketing element. These days, it's like anything goes. Like absolutely anything goes. I remember having the conversation.
Sorry, finish that.
Yeah. With Mikayla, she's like, she sent me artwork for something. I'm like, there's no words on this.
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah, but there's this new trend where there's like no artist name and song title. And it took me like a minute. I was like, no, you can't do that. Yeah. Like in my head, I think I was like, because I trust Mikayla implicitly, especially like, again, she brings up our cool quotient. Like,
100%.
So like if the young pop, I know I'm going to say,
we say this a lot. I don't know if we've told you this to your face.
Yeah. You bring up our, it's like the movie, the Other Woman, when they do like when they find the other mistress.
Our attractive.
What are they? Yeah, I forget what they call it, but anyways.
It's really cool because it's like one has the brains, one has the butt, she has the boobs.
Yeah, you know? It's like together we're all great. Exactly. So I knew that when you said it, I should pay attention because I was like, okay, well, she's gonna have her pulse on something that I probably won't. And then I researched. I was like, yeah, and it makes total sense because now in the digital space, like if you're printing it, you have to put it on it. But in the digital space, it always comes up with your name and the song title. There's never an occasion where that artwork is separate from that information.
Exactly.
So you don't need to put it on there.
For sure. And it used to be like before digital platforms, before even just like the internet.
Yeah.
If you release music as an artist, people could only find you like through your actual album or like CD case and jewel and pamphlet that went inside. And then like print news articles or magazines. Yeah. And that was it. So like any opportunity to communicate, anything about an artist was it really in like the album or magazine or print of some sort. Now it's if I hear Mikayla's song and the artwork has nothing, her face isn't on it, I can still Google her or look her up on socials and see 10,000 photos of her if I want.
Right, exactly.
Where before it was like you only had a very limited space to be like, this is who this person is and to communicate a brand or to try to get facial recognition. Where
Yeah.
now
Yes.
it's like you can go look in so many other places for
Yeah,
that.
like it's on their Instagram, even on their Spotify, their Apple Music.
Yeah.
Like there are cover photos and all the stuff that you can add that has all their stuff on it, right? Before you'd have to buy the album and then you'd sit at home and you'd flip through the cover book and look at all these different photos.
And sometimes like the lyric thing would fold out, and then the other side it was like a full size
miss
poster,
those. I
and you put it up
Oh
on
my
your
God,
wall.
I miss those.
Oh my God. I just had a meeting with a vinyl pressing company. And so this is actually on topic, shockingly, because we do tend to wander.
Yes.
But she brought all of these the vinyls that are pressed these days. Oh my gosh. The options as far as the art, not like the actual vinyl itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And the patterns they can put in it and the different colors and then the sleeves and the whole thing. And I was just like, I had this moment where it was like, it brought me back to when like I was 10 or 13. I was just like, this is the best. I mean, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
But I think one of the stats that she told me was 40% of people that buy vinyl have no way to play it.
Yep.
It's
Yeah,
it's
like
just
concerts and stuff.
it's
Yeah.
artwork. It's like a keepsake. It's kind of like a sweatshirt.
Well, I think of, like,
you know,
people's rooms, right? Like they'll put up the vinyls.
like
on
Maddie's
the walls.
room's
Maddie's
covered
room,
in
all the vinyls. Like I know so many people who like will like take the vinyls actually out and just post the like covers and make like, a wall of just the covers because it's art. And we kind of touched on this a couple episodes back again. If you haven't checked it, go and listen to it.
Shameless plug.
About like physical, I know, shameless plug on our own thing about our own thing. About like physical releases and how people release.
Yeah.
And it's going back to that sense. We have unlimited access to everything. So now it's about making that access even more special. So how do you do that? We go backwards. We go back to having something so like when you buy the vinyl, it's in your color and it has all this art in it that you don't get when you're just streaming. And people want that.
Yeah.
We're going back to the place of like, I have a record player at my house and I love buying a vinyl and like putting it on and like playing it from the beginning to end, listening, looking at the artwork of all the stuff. Like there's so much, we're really creating a digital experience for people.
Yeah.
Right? Like with the 10-day experience, like all this kind of stuff that we can do for social media and releases, but people want that physically as well.
Yeah.
They're missing that.
Absolutely. So like practical tips for artwork is if you're listening and you're creating projects. So the first thing is you want to set your budget. You know me, I'm always talking about money.
Oh yeah.
Because people don't talk about money enough. So be realistic about your budget.
Yes.
And you can make something beautiful no matter what your budget is. So if your budget is like nil, like do like what Mikayla was saying, she did everything DIY. And so find a cool space, make sure if you're going to do pictures of you, make sure what you're wearing, all matches the feeling of the music. So it's all, go by the emotions, not by what you think you should be doing. Go by the emotions of it. Like, does this outfit feel like the song? Does this space that we're going to take the photo on feel like the song? And then set up a camera. I mean, you could do amazing things with an iPhone.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, we've shot music videos on iPhones and they're great, you know? So don't fall for the whole, you need a gazillion things or spending thousands of dollars. Now, what money will give you access to is graphic designers like Tina or established photographers and maybe access to locations you maybe couldn't access as a DIY. So start with your budget and even before you set your budget, really dream about it. Like think it out, daydream about it. What is the feeling of it? And what do you, if this was the thing to ask yourself is if this photo was the only thing anybody ever saw of you and your music, you want to know what it's communicating and what it conveys. And you want to be like, yeah, if this is the only thing they ever see of me, this makes sense. This will give them a sense, a fingerprint of who I am as an artist.
Yeah, creating a vision board, starting there, just seeing, right? And again, everything comes down to the song.
Absolutely.
What's the feeling of your song, right? You're not going to take a beautiful, sunny, bright, smiling photo of you dancing when it's a song about heartbreak. Do you know what I mean? Unless you're really happy about that heartbreak. You know? But
unless
then again,
you caused it.
unless you caused it. And again, that's a different
And it
feeling.
made you feel wonderful.
And
it brought you
wonderful
joy.
to bring tears to someone. You know, but again, that's a
Yeah.
different feeling. You want to know the feeling of your song. Look at mood boards. Look at look at that feeling. Dream about it, right? See, like if you don't put a budget on it yet, just see what would you want to do.
Yeah.
And then when you can put your budget on it, you can see how you can achieve that. You
And
know?
go study what other artists that you feel are close to your genre or people that you admire, study what they're doing.
Yeah.
Not to copy it because that's not cool, but to be inspired by it and to pull threads from it and go, yeah, like these elements, I really love these elements. And then, you know, like go and see what's out there and competing.
Yeah. And you know, like I think like as an artist, when you're creating like music, you know what the end result to some degree, what it's gonna look like. Like for my like next single, Fade Away, even when writing it, I was picturing going to Tofino. Like Tofino's always been like a beautiful, like inspiring place for me. I've been a handful of times, and even when writing this song, like that really inspired me. So to go there, like my budget wasn't focused on like a photographer, but it was like our hotel room. And then I like basically just bribed my friends to come with me.
Oh, that's the best.
I'm like, hey, do you guys want to run away to Tofino to shoot a music video? And then they're like, sure. And then again, the artwork was very similar to how we shot Row, was we were just in the moment on the beach, and my friend Madalena was just like, oh, like just keep walking and like do that thing again where you like lift your boot up. And I just did, and then it was done. It was just like this effortless, like it was in the pouring rain in the middle of nowhere on a beach on the West Coast, and it just kind of like came to be.
And I mean, because what you chose to wear, even the boots you chose, the way your hair was in the pouring rain, the way this, like sometimes you just get lucky because Mother Nature's working with you. Like we sat on those rocks by the ocean, waiting for the pattern of the waves to hit for like an hour. Not just for the photo, but for the video we were shooting at the same time. And so sometimes, you know, Mother Nature will just come through and fly with flying colors, you know. But it's the feeling of being. We've talked about this before, but there's a feeling when you're in the flow. Like there's two states of being. You're in resistance or you're in flow, and there's nothing like when you're in the flow of it.
Yes.
So it may you may not have, you know, you may have been like, oh, I want a sunny day or and it was like those things may not have been what you planned in your mind, and maybe you may have felt disappointed about some of that, but then you're just in the flow of it, and you're like, this is amazing.
When you give into it,
when you give into
and
it,
you're just like, I'm
here.
here, let's like make lemonade out of lemons.
Exactly.
You know?
Like it should always be fun, no matter what you're doing at
always
any
be fun.
It should always be
stage.
fun,
Because really, why else do we do this?
It should be bringing joy, right?
Yes.
Like, and again, if you're not feeling good, then figure out a way to feel good, right?
Yeah.
If it's meet with your photographer before, if you're doing photos, you know, get a sense of who they are. Ask people who you know who've worked with them, because like all photographers, we're like humans. Well, we are humans. We're there like humans.
I mean, debatable.
But like they all work in their own way, and they all have their own sense of how they do things, right? I've worked with some photographers who are like very enthusiastic and it's like, yes, this, oh my God, you're so beautiful. This is great. And like that can work for some people, and for others that could be too intense. And they want someone who's just going to set a really calm space. You know, some people just go and take the photos and they're like, oh, I got it. And that's it. And that can make you feel really insecure if you need that, not recommendation.
Like reassurance.
Exactly, that reassurance, right? So it's make sure you're working with the people that's going to make you feel the most comfortable. And again, as long as you're having joy, or you're having fun, and it's bringing you joy. Because again,
that's it.
We're not in it for the money, this job.
And if you're watching this podcast, you're likely not making millions with your music.
Exactly.
But if you are, call us.
Yeah, exactly. We have an investment opportunity.
I also want to note quickly about, so let's say, and maybe Mikayla, you can speak to this a little bit, and I'm sure everybody can, but so let's say you choose a photo for your artwork. Could we talk a little bit for a minute about then like if you are adding text, whether it's the title or your name, like especially when it comes to DSPs, like what are the things you need to be thinking about in order to like stand out or be clear on DSPs? Because we all know there's like 60,000 songs a day uploaded to DSPs. So like you have a beautiful photo, an amazing photo, but it could still go astray from there if you aren't picking like if you're not making the right like graphic choices still around that photo. So do you maybe want
and
to
before you answer, I just want to clarify what DSPs are in
I
case
was just
people are
gonna
just
say,
like,
we
what's
should
a DSP?
also do that.
So it stands for either one of two things: a digital streaming platform. So that is, you know, Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, or digital service platform, meaning any kind of digital delivery service. But typically more it's streaming. But anyways, that's what DSP is. So when you upload your song to a distributor like a TuneCore or DistroKid or 1RPM or wherever, it's sending your song to DSPs, and there's formats that you have to follow.
For graphics, I've noticed I find it like I've studied it a little bit across the boards for like indie artists and stuff, but also like major artists too. Like keeping your artist name the same text font throughout your artwork has like makes sense, you know? Yeah. Like I think with each song, like your like for example, like your song Row, like the text of that could have been anything, but I kept your Jessica Pearson in the East Wind very like similar. Like when I put my name on anything, like it's the same font. Yeah. Because it makes sense, right? Yeah. And like I feel like it's
like a logo.
Yeah,
you know that, like everyone knows the Coca-Cola font. Yeah. If all of a sudden,
if they changed it, everyone would be like, "Ooh."
Well, or just your brain doesn't associate it. Like we're very, in a way, like conditioned, simple creatures of habit. Exactly.
And it's also so busy. The space is so busy, and we have content coming at us all the time. So consistency is like gives you that exhale. You know,
it's just less brain. It's less like brain power.
Yeah, and there's opportunities. Like I think along the way, like obviously it's like creativity can change any time, but like, and I think there's opportunities to rebrand over time. But like I think changing it on every single artwork is confusing,
especially if it's
you don't
singles.
And you don't really need to. Yeah. Like I think like having. And I think like the title of the song, like for example, like Fade Away, like in my brain, like that song is like handwritten on a piece of paper. So like I wanted the font for like the words fade and away to be like kind of handwritten almost.
Yes.
So like in that way, like for my artwork Mess, like I actually digitalized my handwriting.
Yeah.
And so like, and then video games had nothing on it because I was trying to be cool.
Not trying, you were succeeding at being
because I saw like a lot of artists on Spotify like aren't putting text on it. And I think for video games, like I tried to even put like the word video games like in video game the text, like and it looked corny.
Yeah.
You know, like it looked corny, it looked too busy, and I felt like the artwork, like the picture communicated what I was trying to say more than words could.
Yeah.
And so I think for that was a good move.
And I think that's important, right? Yeah. It's staying true. It's not like, yes, there are rules to follow. Like it has to be like 3,000 by 3,000 pixels.
Minimum, yeah.
Minimum in order to upload. But it's really following what feels best, right? Because you can like the only wording that should be on there is your name and this song title, or the album title. But like you said, like you tried it and it felt corny, it didn't feel right to you, and everything that photo, that album or single artwork portrayed everything you wanted out of that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So why try to put something on it and try to force it to be some way when you know that it gives everything it needs, right? It's also trusting that, you know, sometimes it needs wording, sometimes it doesn't, and it's just letting that not letting the standards of the music business and what's been done like get to your head about what you have to do. Yeah. Like again, the idea of like the self-portrait, putting a picture of you on it, right? It was for a marketing reason. And if that feels good to you and that's what you want to say, then do it. Yeah. But you don't have to do it and set that standard for yourself. You can really, it's all about sharing your art and your branding and that feeling.
It's the
right?
creation. It's create.
creation.
You know, you get, and as indie artists, who is most of our audience, you know, you get to be involved in the create stage of everything.
Yeah.
If you're, you know, listening and you're in a deal, a more traditional deal with a bigger label, they will often take that creative away from, like, they'll do the marketing and you'll just see it when your album shows up. Right. And like, cause they're kind of managing that whole thing and brand. So, and some people love that. Like some people like, hey, just let me know like when it comes out, which can be great. And other people just love being part of the creative process all the way through. So there's no right or wrong way to do things. It's okay to make mistakes, trust your instincts, and develop your instincts, your internal voice on your artwork the same way you develop your internal voice on creating your music.
Yes.
And make sure your text is big enough to read.
Yes.
Also,
Correct.
if you're putting text on, Mikayla.
Yes. and curly fancy writing doesn't say what you think it's saying in graphic art. You know, people like, there's all these fonts where it's like this really curly font. It's like you think you're being creative and stuff, but remember,
when you read it, your brain, you know what it's saying.
You know what it says, but if
maybe show it to a few people who have no idea. And see, make sure it doesn't take them 5 minutes to figure out what
exactly.
And share it. Like if you're in between some like different photos or graphics, like share it to people you trust and don't ask what they think of it. Just ask what feeling does this give? Because that was one thing that you said, and like that's always stuck with me. And I always go up to someone and I'm like, what feeling does this photo give? Because we were kind of thinking with Ro, we were thinking of the one photo we used, and then this other photo of my feet. I love my feet. $1,000 a feet, everyone. $1,000 feet pick
up for sale.
Feet pick for sale.
We actually would be selling it.
We would be selling my feet technically if we use that. But I asked like a very trusted friend of mine, and I know, and like for him, the first thoughts that came out with that was like kind of lonely, and I was like, well, that's not what I want to portray. And so I was like, thank you for that, because that like, and I was getting that from a few different people, and I was like, okay, perfect. That's not what I want to portray with this. Right. So obviously, the other one that was portraying what I wanted is what I want to go with, right? Even though I obviously love the photo of my feet. Again, $1,000 a photo, but
it will be on her website.
It will be
if you want to look at it.
That's also true for free. There's a donate button for feet pics, like a little donate button. But it's that sense of like going with what maybe that'll work for a different song that has the feeling of loneliness, right?
So it's remembering the two aspects. So your artwork is an opportunity for expression of self. It's creative, but it is also a communication piece. It's communicating something as well. And that is more important in my mind. What is it communicating versus like an outlet for you and your creativity?
Yes.
Right? Like marketing it has intent. It has focused intent when you're creating your marketing stuff.
Exactly. And you can use other photos like that don't end up as singles or artwork, as like social media pieces to lead up to it, right?
That's a really good point too, is like when you're shooting the artwork, keep in mind that all of those other photos, like even if it's not the winner, is great content.
Yes.
Oh, it's great
for stories, for Instagram, for websites, for like everything.
We're artists. We're always looking for more things to post, right? And the last thing
Feed the machine.
The last thing too I'll say on this is like, I learned recently in again, correct me if I'm wrong, or like if you guys know, but I was reading a book and it said that we as humans, there's so much information that we need to take in that we can actually only understand, or we only take in 10% of all the information around us, colors and everything. So when something is familiar to us, it's easier for us to see it because it's already been in our head. So if you put your name on the same artwork, the same name font that you use on everything, if you're continuously using that, and this is people that have seen it before, that's part of that 10% they're going to take in because it's already a part of their brain. They already know it. Where if it's something unfamiliar, sometimes it easily just washes over us because our brains have never taken it in before. So if we're not looking for it specifically, it's harder for us to acknowledge.
We each have our own fonts.
We each have our own fonts.
Well, yeah, because when I like look at each of you as artists, like I can see what, like, I mean, obviously it's my graphic designer brain, but like Tara Shannon, you're the handwritten, like, you know what I mean? And like you're obviously the JPU thing with the flower. And Sam Stone's just like Sam Stone.
Yeah, I know, it's perfect.
Get stoned.
Get stoned.
And like again with you, Mikayla, like how you have like for your mailing list, it's like, do you want a love letter? Like, I'll write you a love letter.
I'm like,
And
yeah,
love
I
that.
want a love letter.
Hell yeah, from you, duh. Anyways,
I'll write you one.
thanks. Well, thank you all for joining us on this podcast episode talking about art. And again, follow your joy. Do what feels right to you.
And follow me on Instagram.
Follow your joy and follow us on Instagram.
Exactly.
We will bring you joy.
We will bring you joy. But yeah, because really in the end, it's all up to what feels good for you. So we're here to give our opinions, to say what's worked for us, what hasn't worked for us, what we see trending in the music industry now and continuing forward. But it's really following your gut, follow your heart. What's going to bring you joy, what's going to bring you happiness. And like hopefully you'll use some of our guidelines. Like if not, that's okay. So you've been here with Jessica Pearson,
Tara Shannon.
Sam Stone, you can find at I am Sam Stone.
Mikayla Menzies at Mikayla Menzies on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Pinterest.
going down the line. Don't worry.
www.mikaylamenzies.com.
I include
If you would like
socials.
a love letter, sign up.
I include everyone's stuff below in the description, so you got it. If there's something that you want to hear us talk about that we haven't yet, please send us a note, write a little review, send us a message. Let us know what you'd like to hear from us. We honestly can talk for hours. So thanks, you all, beautiful human beings, for being here. And thank you for joining us and listening and jumping on the Syn Wagon. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another Help Us All from the Couch.
Yeah.
And follow, again, $10,000 for a few pics. Thank you. Okay, bye.